Welcome back to the Parent Edit podcast in collaboration with Club Med. Today we are joined by Beth Sandland, and I am very excited to have Beth here. Beth is probably one of the OG content creators, in my opinion. I've been following you for years. Not only is Beth a wife and a mother of two, but she also runs her own business and, of course, creates amazing content around motherhood and travel. So I think Beth's going to have a lot of helpful tips from us and speak from experience, because you haven't stopped traveling since you've had children, which I love to see, and is such an inspiration to me because I think it can be quite demonized.
Thank you for that introduction. I feel like I've got big shoes to fill now. Travel has always been so important to me, and it was something that I did really extensively in my early 20s before having children. When I became pregnant with my first son, I spent a lot of time thinking about how we would incorporate him and then our second baby in our adventures, and sort of find that balance between family-friendly travel, but also not wanting to just be stuck to a particular type of holiday or particular, maybe more stereotypical destinations. We have been really, really fortunate to do a lot with them.
Do you think that that is down to you having a more flexible career, or do you think you would have always found a way to make it work?
It massively helps. Obviously, logistically, it really helps to be able to incorporate content as well. Sometimes we've been able to travel for work as a family, which has been a huge privilege, but also it was something that I just felt really passionate about, finding a way to make it work, whatever that looked like. My eldest is starting school in September, so that's the new challenge, is navigating term time. So up until now, we've been really, really lucky. I am a big believer that there are things, cultures, experiences that you cannot learn sat at a desk or sat within your own four walls in your own town that you live in. It'll be interesting to see how we navigate things.
Every year presents a new challenge in motherhood. How are you finding balancing the home life and incorporating travel where possible?
So my youngest turned 2 last month, and I feel like this year has really turned a corner for me in terms of how I approach having two, especially close together. They're pretty much exactly 2 years apart. I think those first 2 years were quite overwhelming and all-consuming, and I'm very conscious that you're growing number two yourself right now. So I also want to reassure you that it is, you know, the chaos and the magic is all there too. I definitely felt like I was in survival mode for quite a long time. It's still chaos. I'm still winging it. I'm still making it up as I go along. I do feel a lot more grounded in myself now, and I think that has been the biggest shift. Hasn't been the kids or their ages even, because as you said, every year presents a new challenge. Every time you go through one phase, a new one pops up. They're always keeping you on your toes. So I think it has been changing the way I approach them, but also the way I approach myself, that has made me feel a lot more grounded and able to deal with that day-to-day chaos.
Considering yourself in motherhood, or just even putting yourself as a consideration in the general family, is definitely something that I think changes the motherhood experience. I definitely felt foul of becoming the kind of victim and the martyr in the first year, and no one benefited. How do you and your husband balance things on holiday? Would you say you're pretty good at both chiming in so that you can both come away a little bit rested as well?
Yeah, it's both. I think on a totally practical level, we do try and agree in advance maybe how we're going to approach certain things, like time zone changes, nap times, meal times. So we have a bit of an idea before we even go somewhere what that might look like, with that pinch of also needing to just kind of accept that obviously it's out of routine. Kids are going to behave differently in perhaps a less structured environment than at home. And also you just have to go with the flow, I think, sometimes, and embrace that it's a very short-term new variety of chaos that you're welcoming in. I think the important thing for us is that it still feels like a holiday for us as well as the kids. We will often do something like alternate nap time. Very lucky over here because my husband is a pale ginger. So he's often, if we go to a hot destination, which we often do choose, he's always like, you go and sit in the sun. You're going to enjoy it so much more than me. I'll read my Kindle on the balcony. I do often luck out with those nap time sunbathes. And that 1 hour of the day is enough to fill my cup up. And then I think you just have to embrace the other moments, because I will absolutely not sit here and say that traveling with kids is always fun and wonderful and lovely. Our last trip, I got vomited on. Say about half an hour of takeoff on a 4-hour flight. We'd all been up since 3 o'clock in the morning. I was dripping with sick. The people sat behind me did not have a sense of humour about my kids being toddlers. There were plenty throughout the week. There were plenty of those moments where you not just think, but also say out loud, we could have just stayed at home. I'm not booking another holiday until they're at least 6 and 8, you know, and all these things come out my mouth. So I would never want anyone to think we're just kind of skipping off into the sunset with these perfect angelic children who do everything that they're told, because that's definitely not the case. It's clinging to the little moments, the magic, the memories that you don't have at home, and also the things that the kids then talk about and remember and bring with them often aren't the big things that you sort of spent so much time or money considering.
This podcast is brought to you by Club Med, the pioneers of the all-inclusive family holiday concept and inventors of the Holiday Kids Club. From gourmet dining and thoughtfully designed family suites to premium drinks and professionally run kids club, Club Med takes care of everything so you can focus on making memories. Resorts are designed with families in mind, offering interconnecting family rooms, unlimited activities and kids clubs, all included in your booking. And the best part? Children under 6 stay free at Club Med Sun Resorts. So visit clubmed.co.uk to book your next family holiday. You do it all for them, don't you? Just knowing that actually what they do take away from it is like, we love playing in the pool all week. That's all they take away from it. So they're not going to say, oh, that was a long travel day, I missed my nap.
No, it's the simple stuff. It's the swimming. It's the extra ice cream you said yes to, even though it was an hour before dinner. Maybe it's sleeping in mummy's bed on holiday or whatever it is. Those are the little things I always find they kind of remember and tell me about after.
Are your boys quite active?
They absolutely, especially in a new environment, they just bounce off the walls. If it means going on an aeroplane, then that in itself is
wonderful.
Just, oh my goodness, aeroplane. And they are kind of go, go, go all day. Especially if on a normal week, you're actually used to the support of something like nursery or preschool or, you know, going to work yourself and not being with your kids 24/7. Sometimes I think holidays can actually be a bit of a shock to the parenting system.
Do you see the boys being very activity led in what they want to do? Do you think that's something that you look for in a resort?
Yeah, it's definitely something that even now we've started considering more so what's on offer. My eldest really enjoys a kids club. He's quite happy to be left. When he knows that a hotel or a resort has a kids club, he always wants to go and check it out. So that's always something that's on our list. Great swimming pools. Definitely, we know we'll be spending a lot of time there. The beach, even just somewhere they can safely jump in and out. Our last trip that we went on, 4-year-old was really keen to get involved with things like mermaid swimming, and there was a bubble show. It was very, very cute and probably worth the moment when he also took a number 2 by the pool, despite being...
By the pool? I thought you were going to say in the pool.
No, thankfully not in the pool. By the pool, by someone's sun lounger, despite being perfectly potty trained for the last...
By someone's sun lounger.
By someone's sun lounger,
Stunning.
Yeah. And those are the moments you don't see on Instagram.
So apart from the vomiting saga and the number 2 by the pool, do we have any other travel disasters, or do you find yourself quite lucky?
We've had situations to deal with, I guess, like long delays, which is so inevitable. It was something you said earlier, actually, about being mindful not to victimize yourself in situations, because I think when you've perfectly planned out maybe your day, your travel itinerary, how many snacks you brought with you, all of those things, then suddenly the plane is grounded or you're sat on the tarmac for an extra 2 hours or whatever, it can feel really tricky. I remember the first trip we ever took my son on, I think he was about 5 months old. We went to an all-inclusive resort in Cyprus, just thinking, let's choose something easy. And he didn't sleep. Now, obviously he was 5 months old. I don't know what I expected, but I just remember walking around thinking, I am in such a beautiful place and I feel like death right now. I just feel awful and this is so frustrating. And you all these nighttime antics of, do we put him to sleep in the pram and go to dinner? Do we keep him up? Do we put his bed in the bathroom? Or, you know, all of these things. So it's not necessarily disasters, but I think it, you know, it does test you. But lack of sleep or kids just being kids or vomit and poo aside, it still feels worth it for me.
Yeah, me
because
too.
It's a change of scene, and they, you know, it is for those little magical moments. My husband and I talk about something called the 80-20 rule, where we say, okay, let's go into expecting that 80% of this trip is going to be same old, just in a new location. But 20% of it is going to be those family memories, those new experiences for them, the new skills they come back with. I always find mine make these like little leaps on trips because I think they're speaking to new people, they're in new environments, maybe they're learning to swim better or whatever it is. And so it's those 20% of moments, plus the kind of change of scene, hopefully not cooking your own dinners or doing the laundry or whatever it is. Even that, I think, is in itself the holiday.
And it definitely frees up, I think, a bit of brain space and general parenting capacity to just be that better present parent that we all talk about being, and all these things we want to be. We have a bit more capacity to do that when we're not thinking, oh, I could just load the dishwasher before you go to bed rather than sitting with you and playing with that toy, because I could just balance and juggle all the things here. Well, when you don't have to do that, you can just sit and give them that undivided attention. And you can do that in your own home environment. Of course, it's a choice, but there's no taking away from the mundane things that come up in everyday life. So I think that's probably one of my favourite parts about being away, even when it's really tough. I know that I'm going to walk downstairs and someone else is going to cook my dinner.
Honestly, a meal, I don't even care what it is if I don't have to cook it or wash it
Stunning.
up. As well as just generally saying to me when I was pregnant or when my first was very young, oh, you won't be able to travel in the same way, or don't think you'll be doing those trips with a baby in tow, whatever. I also had so many people say to me, and it was in a sort of camaraderie kind of way, but saying, oh, there's no such thing as a holiday with kids. It's just parenting in a new location. And whilst I absolutely accept that, of course, you're parenting in a new location, I actually don't agree with the statement as a whole, because I think, well, it's a totally different environment to our day to day. There are so many of those stresses removed that even if we've gone on a really low key UK holiday where maybe we've stayed somewhere self catering, it still feels like a break. There are still some of those home domesticities removed. I try very hard not to take my laptop on trips if it can be avoided. Whereas exactly as you said, at home, you might have to do the kind of, just give mummy a minute, just wait a second, I've just got to do this. And it's all valid. We do have to still do things. The house doesn't run itself, but that can come with a level of mum guilt around, you know, dismissing them or whatever it is, or asking them to wait. And I think some of that juggle at least is lightened on holiday.
Do you have any destinations that you really want to go to with the boys, maybe while they're young or before they're a certain age?
I personally did a lot of travel around Asia before the children were born. We've taken them to Thailand and we've taken them to Malaysia. They are just such welcoming countries, such laid back environments. Thailand was honestly one of the easiest places that I've been with my boys. And at the time they were 2.5 and 6-7 months old. So they were really, really young. And that felt like a big undertaking to get on that flight with them. But when we were there, everything just felt so easy and relaxed. So I would definitely like to do more of that with them. I think Sri Lanka would be a really good destination if we were to plan a bit of a kind of a bigger trip. And then something that is absolutely on my travel bucket list with them, but somewhere I actually want to wait until they're a bit older, is South Africa, safari. Even though I know that they would find a lot of it really magical now, I want that to be a trip that they really remember and are able to soak in.
If you had a parent say to you right now, let's say they've just had a baby, their first baby, and they're saying, oh, I don't know if that I want to do this, right, what would your advice be? Because I think I had the similar kind of thing where people would just constantly say you're mental. So I did I think it was like an 8 or 9 hour flight for her first holiday, and it was overnight direct, and I thought, stunning, this is great, winter sand, and it was the easiest flight I've ever taken with her.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would always say the younger they are, the easier it is. Even with, you know, 2 kids, one running up and down the aisles, one jumping on the seat, sticking stickers all over the tray table that I have to pick off, whatever it is. I always just say to people, it's a means to a nice end.
Yeah,
you don't have to look forward to the flight, but you don't have to dread it either. It's for a finite length of time. Take what you can take to make things easier, but also know that you are going to get off. It is going to end.
Yeah, definitely.
And when you get off, you're going to be in this whole new place. And the other thing I always say is that kids live anywhere. I always get asked where is the most family friendly? Now, obviously there are destinations which feel more geared to kids than others, and resorts that feel more geared to kids than others. And I would say if someone's feeling really anxious about all the paraphernalia, then booking a family resort where they supply the cot, the high chair. You know, we've been places where there's been bibs at the table, there's been plastic cutlery. You know, it does make it so much easier than when you're lugging everything on a plane or a train or whatever yourself. You can be in Thailand and run out of nappies. Go and buy nappies, because Thai babies wear nappies too. And I think sometimes people forget that.
Yes, I think it can definitely all feel quite scary, because maybe it just plays into general kind of motherhood marketing about you needing everything. The second I got towards motherhood and pregnancy, I was like, well, I need to be exponentially organised, and life will crumble unless I have everything in a certain order. And how can you just relax about that? And just this immediate kind of anxiety that I'd never experienced. And I think that could be potentially to do with general marketing towards mums about how much you need and all the things you couldn't possibly live without. Here's my top 5 things I can't live without. Well, you can watch these videos and say, I probably lived without them for years and we're all still here.
Yeah, I think there are so many factors, but you're right. I think the noise does make it so much harder now, because if we think even when our mothers had us, there wasn't that same level of information overload and opinion. And opinion would come from, you know, the people that you knew, your circle. I'm sure that they still had granny complaining that you didn't put socks on them, or, you know, the books with the routines or whatever it was. But it wasn't the level of just the constantness that social media brings, I think. And exactly as you said, this idea that, you know, you don't want to get it wrong. I also think kind of how that early motherhood sort of trajectory looked for you can play such a part on how you're feeling, on anxiety. I know my mental health was in tatters for most of the first year. But I think we are also taught to put on a brave face. So half the time, probably nobody even knew how I was feeling, because you get up, you splash your face with water, you put a bit of concealer on, you have a coffee, you push them to baby class anyway. Maybe you're still wearing a nappy yourself. You know, we have this real kind of like get up and go culture, whereas actually in other cultures, those first 40 days, those first 12 weeks as a new mother are sacred for you as well. And I think we wear it as a badge of honor when people are like, I was in the pub in jeans 3 days after my C-section. And it's something that I was really aware of second time round. I intentionally slowed down massively. I took far more of a nurturing approach to my own postpartum than I did first time. I put so much more time, thought and money in pregnancy into what my recovery would look like, because I knew that the baby would have his needs met, because his needs are so simple. He just needed me. He needed milk. He didn't care what his baby grows looked like. He could just, you know, none of that mattered. So, but I think that was one of those things which, even if somebody had told me that first time, I wouldn't have listened.
My personal motherhood journey, and I think motherhood for a lot of people, is this kind of unraveling and then rebuilding of yourself. And I think the world honestly had a huge curveball to throw at me and just said, you don't actually know anything, but this is really good for you to not know anything. And you're actually going to be much better once we've taught you that you know nothing. Going back to saying like how I was so anxious about having everything with me, I've become the least anxious traveller I've ever been in my whole life since I've had children, because you're so busy looking after someone else. I felt I had no space to be anxious. And even going through airports and all those things can be quite stressful, but I just see it as if we all get to the plane in one piece, then we have smashed the airport part.
Totally. And I think that comes down to expectations, doesn't it? And I think
have none.
That, I mean, that is actually probably the key topic around family travel, is if you expect it to look the same as an adults only holiday, or you expect your flight or your rhythms or your routines to be the same as they were before you had children, then you will be disappointed. But if you go into it with lowered expectations and this curiosity around what that new normal might look like, then I think you can then embrace the changes. And as you said, keep the bar low, celebrate the wins, take loads of snacks. It will all be fine.
And loads of changes of clothes.
Yes, including for yourself. I have always been brilliant at taking spares for the kids. Obviously, I didn't have spares for myself on that flight.
It's always the one time.
Ordinarily, I do try and pack a hand luggage bag, which has got a change of clothes for everybody, a set of swimwear for everybody, and a couple of extra pairs of underwear, a couple of very basic toiletries. I have, again,
24-hour
touch
bag.
Wood, a 24-hour bag.
Yes,
I have never had a bag go missing.
Me either.
But it's probably my number one fear, is that panic of turning up somewhere. And again, you know, I would caveat that with saying that I always think as long as you've got your passport, any visas, your travel insurance, you're okay. You can, everything is replaceable. But it would be such a ball ache. I actually try and pack as light as possible. I try and buy as much there as possible in the way of things like nappies, unless it's somewhere where you're not going to have easy access to local shops. If you've just got a kind of in-hotel shop, then you're going to be paying a fortune for nappies. When we did our big trip to Asia, that was when I really fell in love with reusable swim nappies, because up until that point, I was trying to work out how many of those little rippable wet one nappies, they're expensive, they take up quite a lot of space. And I just thought, this is ridiculous. We were away for 2 weeks with 3 kids in nappies.
Yeah.
So I just bought these little reusable swim nappies, and they still use them to these days.
Yeah.
We've never bought a disposable swim nappy again. So obviously environmentally it was a good switch, but also from a packing perspective.
It's very impressive that you've still managed to do this with children, I have to say, because that is one thing that I think, oh, well, we might need this. We might need this. In terms of outfits, the rotation of clothes, I find quite stressful.
My tip for that, take some hand wash liquid with you. So when we went away for 3 weeks, we only packed for 1 week.
Okay.
And I took laundry detergent sheets, and we had a baby bath supplied by the hotel. So I would just put this sheet in the baby bath. It would dissolve. It looked like, those tumble dryer sheets.
Yeah.
Sort of same size as that, paper thin. Put it in, fill it up with some hot water, and you just wash all the clothes, rinse them out, go dry them in the sun.
This podcast is brought to you by Club Med, the pioneers of the all-inclusive family holiday concept and inventors of the Holiday Kids Club. From gourmet dining and thoughtfully designed family suites to premium drinks and professionally run kids club, Club Med takes care of everything so you can focus on making memories. Resorts are designed with families in mind, offering interconnecting family rooms, unlimited activities and kids clubs, all included in your booking. And the best part? Children under 6 stay free at Club Med Sun Resorts. So visit clubmed.co.uk to book your next family holiday. That's a tip and a half. Okay.
M&S they look like baby wipes, but they're stain remover wipes. So when you're sat at a restaurant, maybe you dress the kids in their nicer clothes and then they eat bolognese, and you're just sat there thinking, that's going to sit and fester. That's going to sit and fester for the next 13 calendar days.
Yeah, that's a hack.
One of the first kind of all-inclusives we did after we had my second baby, I really underestimated the sort of need to take any toys or activities by the pool. I thought, well, it's fine. He's going to swim all day long.
Yeah.
And actually at that age, he was sort of 2.5, not actually physically able to swim, and he would get a bit chilly, or he would get a bit bored or a bit hot or a bit bothered. And I didn't have anything around the sun lounger, and other parents were really cool about sharing toys and that kind of thing. And I thought, I don't know why I didn't think to bring those. So now we pack little bath toys that they can play with in the pool, small things like a watering can, squirters, those books that change colour, those kind of things. And then just small sun lounger activities like stickers, watercolours can be really, really fun because obviously they don't make a permanent mess on anything. Yoto cards, whatever, because actually they need that time out of the pool, out of the sun as well. And I definitely felt, the first time, like I made the error of thinking the pool alone would be enough.
When you're away, do you find it easier or harder to avoid screens? Because I've sometimes found it harder because we've been either in the car for long periods of time and I've just wanted her to be quiet and like rested, or on a plane, and I find it actually sometimes quite hard on those in-between travel moments. So I've just decided to not beat myself up about that and say that actually at home she probably gets way less screen time than she does travelling.
So on travel days, I always just say normal rules don't apply. Screen time rules, snack rules, sugar rules, whatever. It is a totally different environment. Fundamentally, a plane is an adult environment. I always feel like if I'm putting them in a position where they might not be fully comfortable, obviously it's not harming them to sit on a plane. But I think, do you know what? If you want to
You can't just strap them in.
No, well, you could, but even if you could, they would just get so bored. And I think if you want to watch endless episodes of Paw Patrol or whatever, if you want another snack, if you don't eat any proper food today, but you have loads of biscuits, I don't mind. As long as when they go to bed that night, they are, they've got full bellies and they're going to bed in a nice warm bed, it doesn't really bother me what has happened on that day. I think travel days are kind of about survival mode. And then I think probably, yes, on an actual trip itself, we do use screens more than usual. I will, and I feel like this is a bit controversial, I will let mine watch a tablet at the table when we're waiting for food. Maybe I don't mind them getting down and running around. This is where family-friendly resorts come in really well because there are lots of kids doing the same. But when it comes to sitting and eating a meal, if my husband and I want to be having an actual conversation, or maybe there's multiple courses or whatever, the reality is that at home they have no screens at meal times, but they're just coming to the table as I'm putting the food on it, eating their dinner, eating their pudding and getting down again. There's none of this kind of sitting around waiting, ordering, drinks everywhere, all these things to, big cutlery, wow, this is fun, whatever.
It's the elongated process.
Yeah, but it is really controversial.
And you don't have 3 wine glasses on the table and
but you
a
get
water
people
glass.
massively judging it. But I just think, do you know what? This is a holiday for everybody, or
Yeah.
this is a meal out for everybody. So in consideration of that, if they want to watch an episode of something at the table, it doesn't bother me. I think kind of crack on.
Yeah, sometimes it gets to the evening. We might have had a short nap, no nap, a long day. She might have been tired by that point. She probably looked like she was ready to go to bed before I've gone for dinner. And then I go and I sit and I order 3 courses and I it's the drawn out process that I think is too much to potentially ask of them. And I do wonder, I don't know whether it's a generational thing, because of course I'm sure you've had people that say to you, oh, well, we never did that.
No,
and
course,
my parents would say the same thing to me, because yes, it genuinely didn't exist.
But my mum did let me colour at the table and read books at the table. Now, that might be a lot more wholesome, but I wouldn't do that at dinner now with somebody. I'd like to think I'm a more refined dinner guest.
Yeah. And
so you grow out of these things.
Exactly.
I don't now sit at a table and say, excuse me, where's my crayons? Or just open my novel while somebody's eating across from me. So, okay, it might not be a screen, which is so vilified, but it's still a form of entertainment. It's still a distraction.
Yeah. Also, I think by the time you've got to that dinner, that's maybe 5% of the total day.
Yeah.
And even in the UK at home, but you've, potentially done 95% that day as the most present, active parent, doing all the developmental activities and the one-on-one time. And then you've got to the dinner and you don't actually have the capacity to run around the restaurant after them.
Yeah.
And also, it might be the only way to get them to eat a full meal before bed.
Everybody knows their children best. They know their families best. And you've got to do what works for you. And what works for you might be utter madness to somebody else.
Yeah.
And vice versa. But I think, totally. I think unless you want to have my kids for 24 hours, you don't actually get a say on how I choose to parent them.
I have a very good piece of advice from my mother-in-law, which was, they won't still be doing it when they're 18.
Yeah.
And I do try and just bring myself back to earth sometimes when I'm getting stressed about things like, oh my goodness, she hasn't eaten a full vegetable today.
Sometimes I think we make it so much harder for ourselves, and that thing we were talking about expectations, it doesn't just apply to what you expect from the kids, but also what you expect from yourself. It's 1 week.
Yeah.
1 week of the year, or even if you're really lucky and it's 3 weeks of the year, if all they eat is the bread basket and some chips and like 3 ice creams a day, they're going to be fine.
I personally think that resort holidays are quite good for children that you might be thinking about going away and thinking, oh, I've got a fussy eater, how's this going to work out? And actually, when you've got all you can kind of eat buffets, if you will, that's a really good time to also try them on new foods. But know that you're going to have what you need, because I'm always falling foul of making these beautiful home-cooked healthy meals and then being ever so shocked when they don't get eaten and thinking, well, actually, what am I going to feed you now? Because this was the family meal.
It can feel personal, even though it isn't personal. If they yuck that thing you just made for them. When you're on holiday, who cares? I didn't cook it.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
I don't care.
All
we
right,
can go
then.
back and get something else.
Yes. My eldest loves going around a buffet. And it gives him a bit of autonomy as well, because he gets to pick and he gets to point at things. And I actually do find he, yes, obviously there's always chips on the plate or whatever it is, but he is more likely to maybe put something on his plate as well because he's chosen it. So, okay, a little bit of cucumber going on there. That's good to see. Yeah, it just gives him that little bit of power. But also it just takes all the pressure off of you, because those staples are there. They've always got pasta, haven't they, as an option or whatever it is.
In the future, do you think you'll always be resort families, or do you think that's a period of time? Do you think it's something that you'll always circle back to? Or
I think both. I think we have done quite a few resorts, and we will always lean towards a resort when we just think we need a fly and flop. Other times I really like exploring new places. I maybe quite like doing a city apartment or something self-catered or something that feels a bit more cultural maybe. So I think it's a balance, but I think they definitely have a time and a place.
Depending on your season of life,
Yeah, and
maybe.
I think also people can think that they're just toddler orientated, but there are so many with so many things to offer older kids as well, even like teen hangout rooms and activities and surfing and biking or whatever it is. that I think as long as somewhere has something for everyone, I kind of think it should
Yes,
just feel
that's
like
great,
a holiday
yeah.
for all of you. Our first trip with Two was a resort. It was all inclusive. It was very much a kind of figuring it all out holiday. But then that being said, the next trip that we did with both of them was Thailand, Kuala Lumpur, and the Maldives, all in one trip, 7 flights, interconnecting, whatever.
Amazing.
And it was okay. You know, it was totally okay. So I think sometimes you just have to do the things you want to do and figure it all out as you go.
How has motherhood reshaped your idea of the classic word holiday?
I think if it was just to be one thing, it would be around those expectations. It can and is still a holiday with kids. It's still a really lovely, lucky thing to go and do, to be able to take a trip, whether it's in the UK, whether it's abroad. It's just managing those expectations and probably remembering how little your child is as well, and making sure that what you are expecting of them is age appropriate. Then adding in, you know, time zones, flights, new environments, new languages, heat, whatever. It can be quite overwhelming for a lot of adults. And I think sometimes we forget that because kids are so adaptable on the whole, we forget that actually it's a lot for them as well. So I think it's to let go of this kind of Instagram perfect family holiday and remember everyone's kids might poo by the pool at some point, you know? And you just got to go with it. You've just got to go with it.
A lasting note. Thank you so much for sharing your tips and your experiences. I hope that people can take away from this a bit of bravery and hopefully inspiration to travel some more, even if it is resort based, where they don't leave the resort for a week and they just have the kids in the kids club every day and they relax themselves. I really look forward to seeing your next travels with your little ones and what's next for you. So thank you so much for sharing this with us.
Thank you so much for having me.